Pull up, grab the fuel nozzle, and get ready to fuel up on trends and strategies to grow your travel center business in this episode of the Truck Stops Here, brought to you by NATSO. Now, here's your host, Amy Toner.
Hello, and welcome to this episode of the Truck Stops Here. I'm your host, Amy Toner, and today I have a special co-host, Miss Lisa Mullings. Hi, Lisa.
Hi, great to be here.
Lisa is NATSO's president and CEO, and we also have Delia Meier, who's our chairman of the board for the last 2 years. And Lisa and I asked Delia to come on to look back at her chairmanship and talk about what happened.
Not much, right, Delia? It's been a very boring couple of years.
Pretty smooth, pretty much like every other year we've had.
It was very different. How was it? How did it seem like it was different from what you expected it to be?
Well, I really planned for being the chairman. I've planned for it for 10 or 15 years. I've served NATSO for over 30 years through the foundation, through government affairs, through conventions committee, anytime I was asked, or even many times probably when I wasn't asked. This was something I wanted to do, and I waited until my kids were in college so that I had time to devote to it, because I really wanted it to be a meaningful year for me and for NATSO. And so it was, but it wasn't what I was hoping for at all. But it was meaningful, it was important, and for that I'm grateful.
Yeah, I do remember when we first talked about it, about you being chair, we talked about doing a lot of traveling and meeting people face to face, and that obviously didn't happen. What was it like being part of the board and chairman of the board during the pandemic?
It was both exciting and it was disappointing. So the exciting, we kind of went through the disappointing that, I didn't get to have the year I was hoping for, the couple of years. But the really exciting part was how NATSO worked together and that truck stops were really lifted up during this time as an essential business. And I feel that NATSO was very important to us on getting our businesses declared essential, our employees declared essential. I mean, if you look at, we were very well represented, truck stops were, and we remained open because of that. And you look at other industries that maybe were not represented as well, the retail industry in general. How about the restaurant industry? I'm sure that their associations were doing all they could to keep them open, but they were closed a lot longer than we were. And look at even manufacturing. They were closed significantly longer than we were. So that was the exciting part, is how we were able to make a difference for all of our members, for thousands of truck stops stayed open and hundreds of thousands of employees stayed employed.
All right. So what was it like weathering the pandemic at Iowa 80?
Well, I imagine it was like it was for all of our members, but it was really surreal to see how the traffic was just gone overnight. No car traffic. There was still truck traffic, but the car traffic was zero overnight. And I could drive all the way to work, which is about 15 miles from my house, and not pass another person on the road, not see one coming at me, not anything. And that was probably the most bizarre part. Then after a couple of weeks, we would see sheriffs, they would be out. I don't know why. I guess they didn't have any place to go. But those would be the only people I would see on my way to work. And just the drop in the gas volume, the drop in the restaurant volume, everything related to car traffic was gone overnight. But the truckers were still there. And so we were really able to focus on the customers we did have coming in and make them feel welcome. And it was interesting how everybody really did keep 6 feet apart. Everybody was kind of skittering around, scared, I would say. And then after a while, as we learned more and, that masks were working and 6 feet apart was working and the restaurants started to open, it was really great to start having conversations with our customers again, because for so long they'd just been running in and out as fast as they could. And of course, by now welcoming them back, it has just been fantastic. You don't know what you miss until it's gone.
Yeah.
And that's what the pandemic showed us.
Absolutely.
Delia, I also think that it showed us how important our industry is, in this whole supply chain, with the truckers. We are just as important because we keep those truckers moving. And it really made me feel especially proud and reminded me of why I really am proud to represent this industry. Did you feel like your employees were feeling that sense of pride as well?
I absolutely do. And I think that some of the acknowledgments we got at the state level and the federal level, I know in Iowa we got lots of mentions from the governor, and just that we were open and people could count on us and they had to keep trucks on the road. It was just an amazing time to be in the truck stop industry.
You did make some changes because of the pandemic on the way the board operates and communicates. And are there some of those changes that you're hoping sticks permanently?
I think and NATSO is very important to the industry. We need NATSO to be healthy and vibrant and active on our behalf and to help us. And I think the pandemic proved this and underscored the importance. I know that I always thought it was an important part of our business and part of our success strategy to be a member of NATSO. I think more truck stops realized that we're stronger together than we are individually, and that there's a place for NATSO to really help us in our operations day to day, in our government affairs, in our just how to do things better and what are the best practices. And so the really amazing part was that we worked together, and we did for the board. We had a Zoom meeting. I believe it was twice a month. Every other week we met for nearly a year. And then we were meeting once a month for, until now, pretty much. So in the past, we only met 2 or 3 times a year, and we would meet for, 3, 4, 5 hours. I prefer the shorter meetings so that we can be more engaged on one topic at a time instead of 5 or 6 topics that we're trying to get through quickly. So I hope that we continue to have a few more supplemental meetings through Zoom. And there's no reason that we can't. Really, because there's so much that NATSO does that the membership or the board doesn't know about. And this is a great opportunity for us to all stay engaged.
And really, that was your idea. And I think it really helped us stay nimble and hear, the staff too, hearing what was happening out, at the truck stops, and we could react and respond quickly. And I think that was a critically important part of it.
Agree.
So I would love to know what you are proud of over the last 2 years. What are you especially proud of?
I'm really proud of a lot of things that the staff has accomplished at NATSO. I feel that NATSO is stronger today than we have ever been, although I don't have the full 60-year history with NATSO. In my opinion, we're stronger than we ever have been. We're more important to our membership than we ever have been. We have more active and engaged members than we have in years. And the staff is very engaged with making our members better operators. And if it took a pandemic to accomplish that, I'm really proud. That's the way we're walking out of this pandemic, stronger than we were when we went in.
That's great.
I'm also really proud that we have a leadership committee that's working on who our future leaders are. I'm proud that we have a budget that is sound, and, we will be a viable business into the future. And that was my goal. And that is the in my opinion, that's my biggest success, and the staff's.
Well, thank you. I think another thing is on the legislative front, having that highway bill behind us with several of the big issues that were involved in that. We always feel a little bit safer right after the highway bill goes through every 5 to 6 years. So you have to include that one.
I do. I'm glad you brought that up. I had such a long list, I forgot. But I think not having commercialization as an immediate threat for us and or tolling of existing roadways, that is such a win for the industry. And it's nice to have that behind us for a few years.
Okay, where do you think the truck stop and travel center industry is heading?
That's an interesting question. I'm sure everybody's got an opinion on it. I've been thinking about this, and I think if I remember, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, truck stops always owned the 24-hour market, that we were often the only thing for miles and miles that would be open 24 hours. And over the last 10 to 15 years, other retailers have moved into that space. And we were no longer the 24-hour, you can always count on us. Walgreens moved into it. Walmart moved into it. Grocery stores moved into it. And in my opinion, that's our space. At some point, that's ours. And I think after the pandemic and with labor shortages that we have, most of those retailers have given up on the 24-hour. And many, many restaurants have given up on 24 hours. So this is our shiny spot, and we've got it back. And I see it as a great opportunity for all of us to continue with doing a great job 24 hours a day. Nobody else is doing it. We own this place again in the world. And that's one change. I'm sure there's going to be lots, but that's what I think will make a difference for my business.
Well, thank you. I wondered if you had thought about all the firsts that you had achieved or been part of with this organization. I know that you weren't here at the very beginning, but your dad sure was. And to my knowledge, we haven't had any individuals who have had, their father was at one point a leader in the association, and now his daughter is. So that's got to be a great legacy for you to carry on.
It is kind of neat to me to think about a second generation NATSO leader. And so I'm proud of that. Thank you for bringing it up.
Good. You should be.
All right. Well, thank you for your 2 years, Delia. I know we're gonna miss having you as chairman, and we really appreciate your taking time to talk with us today.
Yeah, I really appreciate your leadership over the last couple of years. I have no doubt that you're going to continue to be involved. I mean, you're still on the board,
right?
But I think that now that you're in this special club, I'll feel free to call you and get your advice about all number of things, in the coming years. So have no fear. You'll still have to hear from me all the time.
Well, I do not, and I've talked to you about this many times, I do not believe being the chairman should be a swan song. This should be part of an active career.
Absolutely. Well, thank you.
All right.
Thank you so much. It was great to talk to you.
You bet.
Thank you. All right. Thank you for listening to today's episode of the Truck Stops Here. You can find us online at natso.com/podcast. If you have any questions you'd like us to answer on the podcast, I hope you'll reach out to me at editor@natso.com. Goodbye.
The Truck Stops Here was brought to you by NATSO, the association representing truck stops and travel centers. Visit natso.com for more information. The Truck Stops Here is produced by NATSO in collaboration with Human Factor. Producers are Amy Toner and Darren Schulte.